everyone, welcome back to another episode of Web3 Deep Dive Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Wolfson. Today I've got a great interview lined up. I'm speaking with Charlie Lee. He is the creator of Litecoin, one of the top performing cryptocurrencies on the market. So this is a really exciting interview, and we talk all about Litecoin, we talk about Bitcoin, we talk about what's next for the future, we talk about AI, we go into all of it. Charlie is just so knowledgeable, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to this interview because it really is very, very interesting, especially if you are passionate or want to know more about Litecoin. Before getting started with today's interview, I also want to take the time to thank Roxham TV for letting us film today's interview at this beautiful studio here in San Francisco. This is wonderful to be here, especially, when doing an in-person podcast with someone like Charlie. So big shout to Roxham TV. Thank you guys. And I also want to remind our listeners to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content that you're seeing today. Smash that like button, hit subscribe so you can stay in touch and so you don't miss out on anything. Okay, without further ado, let's get started with today's interview. Hey Charlie, how's it going?
Good.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show today here in beautiful San Francisco.
Thanks, Rachel, for having me.
Yeah, I mean, it is an honor to have you here in person with me on the podcast today, so thank you again.
Sure.
Yeah, so Charlie, before we get started, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got involved in the crypto sector?
Yeah, so I've been in this space for 14 years now. I got in in 2011. That's when I first heard about Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto. Bought my first Bitcoin back then, and then in late 2011, I created Litecoin and launched it as an alternative currency to Bitcoin. Called it silver to Bitcoin's gold, and it kind of just took off from there.
So when you found out about Bitcoin, and you were very early, that's awesome. What made you decide that you wanted to launch Litecoin? I mean, did you think that Bitcoin wasn't enough and there needed to be something different, or what was your plan there?
It didn't really have much of a plan. It was kind of just experimenting with the code and just kind of doing a fun side project. So didn't really expect much from it. I have a computer science background, so I was able to kind of look at the code and understand it. And since Bitcoin was open source, fork it and create Litecoin. So made some few changes, launch as a new coin, and kind of position it as a coin complementing Bitcoin. So never saw it really as competing with Bitcoin. And I didn't expect too much from it. And it became really successful, and I guess the rest is history,
right,
so they say.
And Litecoin you created it in 2014, is that correct?
2011.
Oh, 2011, okay, yeah. Got it.
So I found out about Bitcoin, kind of got into Bitcoin in April, May timeframe of 2011, and then in October I launched Litecoin.
Okay, so now correct me if my math is wrong here, but it's the 14th anniversary of Litecoin this year?
Correct. October 13, 2011 is when I launched it.
Okay.
So 2025 will be the 14th anniversary. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a very long-standing cryptocurrency. I mean, this is not like something you created yesterday. This is years and years old.
I mean, Litecoin is the second longest running cryptocurrency, second to Bitcoin.
Got it.
Yeah. Even earlier than XRP or Ethereum or anything else you have out there.
That's saying a lot. We'll get into that in a bit, but I want to go back to your background really quick. If you can elaborate on just like how you got interested in crypto, and you were also at Coinbase for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I joined Coinbase in 2013. So this was after obviously launching Litecoin. Yeah, so in 2011, my first kind of exposure to Bitcoin was reading an article on Slashdot about Silk Road, the darknet marketplace, how it only accepted Bitcoin as its currency. And I got really interested in Bitcoin. The fact that it's kind of a better currency than US dollar. It works better as money than US dollar, and it's kind of very similar to gold because there's like mining, there's a fixed supply. Nobody controls the supply, like no company or government can print more Bitcoin. and the fact that it's decentralized. So it really like resonated with me.
Okay. And so then you founded Litecoin. How does someone go about finding or creating a cryptocurrency? Like, I'm just curious to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so there were, actually before Litecoin, there were about a dozen other altcoins that people have experimented with. They don't exist anymore today. But back then, people were experimenting with different things like faster transactions, different mining algorithms. The only problem with all these other altcoins, and I think the reason why they don't exist today, is because they were launched with pre-mined. They weren't launched very fairly, and basically the creator printed a lot of coins for himself or herself, and then launched a coin. And if the coin became successful, then he or she would become really rich because they have a lot of coins stashed away, right? So I saw this as something that was not cool for a cryptocurrency. You want it to be fair. You want everyone to have the same chance as the creator or a team that was behind it. Nobody has an unfair chance. And I think one of the reasons why Litecoin succeeded is because of that, because it was launched fairly. I was one of the first miners, but along with like 1,000 other miners, like on day one, just mining coins, mining blocks. And I didn't have any unfair advantage. I didn't pre-mine a lot of coins beforehand. So because of that, people trusted the coin, that they support something that is fair, decentralized, and for the people, and not just for one person or one group.
I see. So just with that in mind, what is the goal behind Litecoin? Like when you created it and launched it, what was the original goal there? And I mean, how does that complement, I guess, if that's the right word, Bitcoin or Ethereum, or because you said they're not competing?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So one of the major differences between Litecoin and Bitcoin is that it's faster. The transactions are 4 times faster. And that's kind of just a little tweak in the code, but it makes a big difference in real world transactions. So one example I like to give, which is what I've experienced before creating Litecoin, is back in 2011, it was actually kind of hard to buy Bitcoin. There was one major exchange called Mt. Gox that's located in Japan. You had to kind of do some KYC with them, wire your money to a foreign bank in Japan, and you don't really know, like, it seems kind of shady, and then you get your US dollar on exchange, and you buy the coin, and then you withdraw from the exchange. So it's kind of not easy for a normal person to do. So a lot of Bitcoin transactions happened in kind of person to person. So there was a website called Local Bitcoins, I believe, so I wouldn't recommend doing this today, right? Like buying Bitcoin with someone you don't know in person may be quite risky today. But back then the community was really small. There weren't people trying to rob you of your coins. There weren't like really scammers out there because it's kind of just an experimental currency. So using Local Bitcoins, I was able to find buyers in my area or sellers who have coins in my area, meet them in person at a McDonald's or Starbucks, and I'd give them cash and they would give me coins. So it almost feels like a drug deal, right? But the issue was, with Bitcoin, transactions are at 10 minutes to confirm, and you don't really want to trust someone you don't know with an unconfirmed transaction. So I would wait there for confirmation before I would hand over the cash or before we would leave, right? So they're all very friendly. Like nobody's really trying to scam anyone, but still I don't want to risk it, right? So on average it's 10 minutes, but sometimes at worst case, it takes like over an hour. So I've had instances where I'm sitting there talking to someone, a random stranger I just met, for like an hour at a Starbucks or at a McDonald's, just waiting for a confirmation. And it was just not very fun. So that was one of the things I think Satoshi was very conservative with in terms of the block, how long it takes for blocks to confirm. The reason why it takes some time is you can't do like really quick confirmations because of the decentralization nature of Bitcoin. If it confirms too quickly, mining will be very inefficient because there will be miners on one end of the world mining blocks and building on top of a block a chain that could get wiped out by another longer chain. So it gets very technical, but because of the inefficiency, you want longer block times but 10 minutes is quite long. Like it would require a network split of like that long for something like 10-minute blocks to really affect things. So with Litecoin, I decided to experiment with something faster. So I chose like 4 times faster than Bitcoin, 2.5-minute block speeds, and then also because of that, I made it so that the total number of coins mined is 4 times as many. So Bitcoin has at most 21 million coins at the end. Litecoin will have 84 million, and kept most of the things the same. Especially the kind of the reward schedule. Every 4 years it halves, just like Bitcoin. And yeah, so Litecoin is positioned to kind of be silver, something that's easier to transact with lower transaction fees, faster block times, and kind of a cheaper currency.
Got it. So would you say that Litecoin was created for payments, for transactions, like to buy coffee or something, or was it created to hodl?
Yeah, so the analogy with silver and gold is very apt. So like people used to like hodl gold, like keep it as a store, like a store of wealth, but then they would use silver in everyday transactions. This was way back when. So similarly, we see people actually using Litecoin even more than Bitcoin. Like on the most popular crypto payment processor, BitPay, every month they release stats, and Litecoin is consistently the #1 used cryptocurrency, more than Bitcoin, more than Ethereum, more than all the stable coins. It's because it's fast and easy to use.
What can you use Litecoin for? Because I know that there are some places in SF or other parts of the world you can buy coffee with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that, but some people would. So like, what can you buy using Litecoin and where? I mean, can you buy real estate with it? Some people are using Bitcoin to buy real estate.
Yeah, I am not. I don't know if anyone has used Litecoin to buy real estate. So for like larger transactions, like we're talking about like hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, Bitcoin is still kind of the coin people would use for those things, because Bitcoin is more secure than Litecoin, right? So you would have to wait for like a long time to make sure Litecoin the transaction is secure with Litecoin, longer than Bitcoin. But with smaller transactions like buying coffee or small things, Litecoin is used quite often. Like BitPay is a payment processor. They support a lot of websites, a lot of stores. They make it easy for merchants to accept cryptocurrency and not worry about the technical aspects of cryptocurrency. They receive cryptocurrency, BitPay converts it to the local fiat, whether it's US dollar, whether it's pesos or anything, and the merchant just gets the fiat currency that they expect. So it makes it easy, whereas the customer can use any of the supported cryptocurrencies.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So like, would you say that you're happy to see people spending Litecoin as a form of payment?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's kind of designed to be used by people to just pay for things.
Okay.
Right. One of the key things about cryptocurrency and why I originally think it was kind of very interesting is that it's kind of one of the best form of money that our humans as civilization has come across. Right. We used whatever seashells, gold, silver, fiat currency. But the main kind of idea is store of wealth and also means of exchange, right? You want something that would keep the value, right? Keep value over time, and also something that you can exchange, you can send to someone to exchange for goods and services, right? So those are the two most important things for money, and Bitcoin achieves that, like does that really well. Litecoin also, but Litecoin does the payments part better because it's cheaper and faster, cheaper to send and faster for confirmations. So it's easier to use. So those are the kind of the thing that makes Litecoin really good and useful.
How did you, when you created Litecoin, like how did you ensure that the transactions would be faster and cheaper? I mean, was it that Lightning Network was integrated early into Litecoin? But yeah, just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so Litecoin on-chain transactions are faster and cheaper because of the changes I made with the code. So making the block times faster. So there are trade-offs, right? So it's not strictly better than Bitcoin. The security is lower on Litecoin. There are in terms of like total amount of value of miners protecting the coin, Bitcoin is still the king. It still has more kind of dollar protecting the currency, but you don't really need that for small payments, right? You're not concerned about someone reversing your $5 coffee purchase. So with Litecoin, the security is good enough. And so there are trade-offs. And then speaking of Lightning was something that was first proposed for Bitcoin. It's a way where you can do faster, cheaper transactions on a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin main on-chain transaction would be layer 1. Layer 2 would be something that kind of you collate all the transactions together and only broadcast one big transaction when you need to. So it would require less space on the blockchain and also require less fees because you're collating everything. And Lightning is something that does that. What happened with Lightning was that there was some pushback from miners. They didn't want to support Lightning for various political reasons, and maybe they were afraid of losing kind of the transaction fees that they were getting. So because of how there's some centralization of mining pools. So mining should be very decentralized. Like anyone can run a miner that would mine Bitcoin and Litecoin, but they would all pool together using mining pools to mine a coin. And the pools, unfortunately, had kind of some concentration of power, and they were able to kind of dictate the direction of Bitcoin, where they kind of would block an upgrade that would support Lightning Network. So what Litecoin was able to do was I kind of saw that Litecoin could actually help in this aspect, where Litecoin being kind of very similar to Bitcoin, some people call it a testnet of Bitcoin, because you can really test real world transactions on Litecoin before you actually deploy on Bitcoin. So I was able to kind of activate the upgrade on Litecoin that supported Lightning Network before Bitcoin to kind of prove that it works. So there was a lot of FUD about how once this upgrade happens that people can just steal coins from Lightning Network nodes, and just a lot of things that are hard to disprove, but people were afraid of it. But once it launched on Litecoin and there were actually real Lightning Network transactions on Litecoin showing that the coins are actually safe, that nobody can steal from it, it really helped push, help clear out the narrative of Lightning Network being bad. And that really helped Bitcoin activate the upgrade that would help Lightning Network.
So that means that Litecoin used the Lightning Network before Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was.
Interesting.
I did one of the first transactions of Lightning Network on Litecoin, sending Litecoin over Lightning Network to prove that it works.
Got it.
Yeah.
Were there any other instances where you proved that something worked and then another major like Bitcoin or Ethereum adopted that, or?
Showing that fast block times work is something that a lot of coins copied. One of the few features we added to Litecoin that Bitcoin doesn't have is something called MWEB, which adds privacy and fungibility to Litecoin. So the reason why we did this is because fungibility is one of the major feature of money that Bitcoin doesn't have. Bitcoin is great for everything in terms of money except for fungibility. And fungibility is the idea that every coin is equal to every other coin. So let's take money, for example, like cash, for example. If I go to a store and I pull out a $20 bill, it doesn't matter which $20 bill I pull out, it acts the same, right? The store would accept it no matter which one I pull out. It can be an old one, it can be a new one. And that's really important for money, right? You don't have to pick and choose which is better money than which other coin, right? But unfortunately with Bitcoin and Litecoin previously is that every coin is kind of unique because it has its own history, because the blockchain is public. So because of that, merchants can discriminate against certain transactions. So one example is an exchange may not like that you use a darknet marketplace. So if the coin came from a darknet marketplace, they can figure it out and say, I've seen this happen. They would ban you as a customer because they don't want to service you. They're afraid of the government saying like doing something about it, right? So whether it's money laundering or just anything that is deemed inappropriate. So that makes it like not great form of money, right? If money can be discriminated, it can have blacklist or red list, it's not great, right? So fungibility is very important. So at Litecoin, we worked on this feature MWEB, which adds a layer on top of Litecoin that makes coins more fungible, more private. So when I send coins to you, nobody except for you and I can see how much I sent you. So this way, like if I got paid in Litecoin, if my salary was in Litecoin, people can't figure out how much I made. Whereas if everything is on the public blockchain, if I sent you some Litecoins, you can actually look at my transactions and look at my wallet and try to figure out how much coins I own, how much I got paid. And that's not great for fungibility and privacy. So I think something like this is very, very needed for money, and that's what we added to Litecoin. And it's not on Bitcoin yet. Bitcoin doesn't have this privacy fungibility upgrade.
So would that make Litecoin a privacy coin as well? In a sense,
but it's also opt-in. Like,
okay,
people can use Litecoin without needing to know anything about MWEB. And most exchanges support Litecoin and don't care about MWEB. Like if you have coins on the MWEB side of things and you want to sell it, you would just peg out back to the main chain, send it to the exchange, and sell the coins.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears a little bit. Let's talk about institutional interest for Litecoin, because we're seeing that kind of grow right now. So I want to get your thoughts on that. I mean, are you excited to see that institutions are adopting Litecoin?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me this like many years ago, like when I launched Litecoin, or even Bitcoin, nobody cared about institutional adoption, right? It's more about retail and just general adoption. But today, we're seeing a lot more institutional adoption on Bitcoin, obviously, and also on Litecoin. There's demand for kind of treating Litecoin as an asset class to be able to invest in this asset and have exposure in Litecoin without having to have their own wallet and keep track of Litecoin, have a company or like an ETF take care of all of that, and we see a lot of demands for that. So yeah, recently we launched a company now called Light Strategy that is focused on Litecoin as treasury. Yeah, there was a $100 million investment into the company that we used to buy Litecoin, to hold it and also to make use of it. And yeah, so it's very, very exciting space.
And that's the first publicly listed company that has a Litecoin treasury.
In the U.S.
In the US.
There's also one in Canada. I mean, I'm sure there are other companies all over the world that's doing something similar. But this is the first one in the U.S. that is listed on NASDAQ, that has a big amount of Litecoin in their treasury.
Can you elaborate on that? I mean, and I don't want this to sound silly, but I want our listeners and myself even to better understand the point behind and the goal behind these treasuries, like these cryptocurrency treasuries like Litecoin and Bitcoin. I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a way for people to have exposure in Litecoin without needing to know the technical aspect of kind of holding your currency, having a wallet or getting a hardware wallet. So it takes care of all of that. So it's a stock that's listed on NASDAQ. So it's very easy for anyone to just buy that stock and have exposure to Litecoin. And it's also different from like a pure play Litecoin ETF, which is something that is in the works for a while now. And I think because of the government shutdown recently, it's kind of been delayed. It was supposed to launch like very soon, but the shutdown kind of affected things. But the ETF is something else that also helps with this aspect where anyone can buy the stock on a brokerage, on a regular brokerage, and be able to have exposure to Litecoin.
Why are we, because I know you said that it's coming soon, this Litecoin ETF, and it was delayed because of the government shutdown, but why are we starting to see more crypto ETFs emerge now, and are you excited about that?
Yeah, I think it's just Bitcoin and Ethereum started first, right, last year, the year before. The idea is that cryptocurrencies is a new asset class, right? So people want exposure to that. So ETFs make it even easier for people to buy and have exposure to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and now potentially in the future Litecoin, without having to worry about storing their Litecoins and safekeeping it and handling all that transactions and buying it on exchange. So the ETF and also the Litecoin asset treasury company, LiteStrategy, also does something similar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about this because you're super early in the industry, earlier than most people, and now it's 2025 and the industry has grown and matured to the point of institutions adopting crypto and all these things happening. What are your thoughts on that, like going from 2011 to today? I mean, do you think that the crypto space is going in the right direction, or do you think that it's becoming too institutionalized? Like, are you happy to see that?
I think it's definitely going in the right direction. So institutions coming in and buying crypto is, to me, it's only a good thing. It just creates more, kind of opens up the market to more participants, right? So lots of people have their IRA that there's no way they can use that to buy cryptocurrencies, right? But now with ETFs, it makes it very easy for them to kind of store and speculate on the rise of cryptocurrencies. I think it's good overall. Some people think that it's not great, where if like a company owns a lot of the coins, it's not great for decentralization. But I think the main point of decentralization is that, one, no government and no company, no person can affect can print more coins, right? They can't affect the supply. And that's always true, because Bitcoin and Litecoin are proof of work coins. Having more coins doesn't give you more power to do anything. If the coin prices go up, you can make more money from that, but doesn't give you power over the network or the coin or the people. So I'm not concerned about that hurting decentralization of the coin. Yeah, and the other thing is that what's important is you always have a way to opt out. So you can always store coins yourself, and you can always do transactions with your own hardware wallet or your own like mobile wallet. You don't have to, like, it's not, buying an ETF is not the only way for you to hold Litecoin, right? So the ability to opt out and do everything yourself, if you know how to, if you learn how to do it, is very powerful.
Right. Back in the early days of 2011, I mean, I'm assuming that's what people had to do, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the only thing you can do.
Right. I mean, actually, I should have asked you this earlier. Like, when you were buying Bitcoin in 2011 from an actual person, I mean, where did you even put that? Where did you store it?
Yeah, so the only wallet out there was a desktop wallet.
Okay.
Right. So back then it was called Bitcoin QT. It's basically what Bitcoin Core is now. You can download a desktop wallet and ran on Windows, Mac, Linux. There's no mobile wallet, there's no web wallet, there's no ETF, there's nothing, right? The only way to store it, there's no hardware wallets. The only way to store it is on your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, yeah, it wasn't easy to get into Bitcoin, but because I had a computer science background, it was not challenging.
Right.
Yeah, but back then, I mean, in 2011, I've kind of introduced Bitcoin to a lot of my friends to say, like, check this out. This is like the next big thing. You should buy some. And pretty much all of them failed to buy any Bitcoin back then because it was just so hard.
What was it even valued at in 2011?
So 2011, in early 2011 is when it first hit $1 per coin. So when I got in, it was $30 a coin. So it went up like 30x in 2011 alone. But yeah, I mean, it's very cheap, all things like compared to today. But back then, it felt expensive because it was sub-dollar like a few months ago.
Right, and also, I mean, and maybe you knew, maybe you didn't, but like when you were buying Bitcoin so early, I feel like, was it more of like a hobby? Like it wasn't like, were you buying it because you were like, oh, this is for sure going to go up to 125,000 plus, you know, in the coming years? Or were you buying it just because you were genuinely interested in Bitcoin?
A bit of both. Like
Yeah.
I was interested in the technology. I thought it was experimental for sure, but I thought it was, it would become big. I thought it was like a better form of money than what's out there. And I mean, I had no idea what it would do. I remember telling people, I think that it's kind of like buying Google stock pre-IPO, right? It could go to zero, right? But it could become huge,
Right.
right? So it's worth getting some. My target back then was $5,000 per Bitcoin in 10 years. And that was pretty crazy because it was $30 a coin. So going up 100x in 10 years, people thought I was crazy. Yeah, people were like, there's no way, right? Nothing goes up 100x in 10 years. But then it actually did better than what I thought it would do. Like by a little bit. After 10 years, I think it went to like 20,000. So yeah, it's pretty wild ride.
But when you created Litecoin, the goal was kind of just like faster, cheaper payments, better than Bitcoin can do, right? When it comes to payments, I don't know if you created it with the goal of like, oh, it's going to go up to 125K in the coming years.
Yeah, when I created Litecoin, it was, I mean, like I said, it was kind of for fun, right? It was just it's a side project. At the time I was working at Google, software engineer at Google, working on Chrome OS, Google Play. Relatively boring stuff compared to Bitcoin, in my opinion. And then created Litecoin just for fun on the side. Didn't really expect much of it. I kind of positioned as silver to Bitcoin's gold, but didn't really expect it to kind of be where it is today. Like Litecoin's market cap today is a little bit over $9 billion. Bitcoin's market cap when I created Litecoin was about $100 million. So at the time, I thought if Litecoin ever reached $100 million, that would be like amazing, right? If Litecoin ever became as big as what Bitcoin was back then, like that, I didn't expect that at all. But now it's like 10 times more than that, or what is it? Almost 100 times more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just on that note, I find it really interesting when I'm talking to people really early in the industry. I mean, so I'm 2017, so that's early, but like there are people like you who are like very, very early, and you could kind of foresee the future in a way, or you just found it interesting. But what are you seeing any trends currently that you think are interesting that are probably going to like take off in the and it doesn't even have to be about price. It can be about like AI tools for trading crypto, or, you know, tokenization of real world assets. I mean, what is it that you see really interesting in the space right now, and why?
Sure. One thing I want to address first is you got in 2017. Every cycle, people say they're late, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure when you got in, you were like thinking, oh my God, I'm late because I got in 2011 and prices already gone up. But if you bought when you got in, you made a bit of money, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think people are still late to the game, because the main reason is because you're pricing Bitcoin against fiat currency, and fiat currencies like US dollar is being printed like crazy, right? Since COVID, the supply has doubled, right? Or even much more than doubled. And that's crazy if you think about it. So as long as the Fed, the government's printing more fiat currency, it's just gonna get inflated away against hard money like gold, silver, Bitcoin, and Litecoin, right? So the price will just keep going up because you're pricing it against fiat currency. So it's just a better way to store your money than US dollar. If you put US dollar under your mattress, after 10 years, it's worth like 1/10 the amount. Like, it's crazy how much inflation has happened. But with Bitcoin, even if it doesn't go up in value, like against real world assets, it still would hold value. And that's the most important thing, right? You work hard to make money. You don't want it to get kind of inflated away because you stored it in something that the government can just print more out of thin air. So back to your original question about what's kind of exciting today, you mentioned AI. So one thing I thought of early on, like I think like 2013, I gave a talk at the MIT Bitcoin Expo. I said that cryptocurrency is the best form of money for a future artificial intelligence because it's money where you don't need a bank account. You don't, like before cryptocurrency, there's no way for AI to make money and spend money, right? Because it can't create a bank account. It can't pretend to be a human, go walk into a bank and actually create a bank account. But with cryptocurrency, you can, right? So you can actually have autonomous agents today that work totally autonomously and do stuff, right? They can make money. They can even use money to buy more hardware, right? If they're running on AWS or something, they can potentially even buy more hardware, like beef up their themselves, make more money. So you can have agents today using AI that can work for you or work for itself to do stuff that wasn't possible 10 years ago, 15 years ago, yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, it's so weird to think about it because let's say an AI agent just buys a bunch of Bitcoin and it goes into its AI agent wallet, right?
Yeah.
So that's being held by an AI then and not by a human being.
I mean, obviously humans can have AI bots working for them to make money
or
whatever it is, right?
Right.
And it's not guaranteed that it will make money, but then it's also possible for a totally autonomous AI agent to kind of survive on its own.
Is that something that you're excited about in the industry, the role of AI?
I mean, I'm
crypto?
not working on AI myself. It's kind of exciting, but also scary, right? It gets you the world where potential like Terminator stuff happens. So it's kind of scary where AI could lead to.
Right. What are your thoughts on things like stablecoins? I mean, is that something that you're happy to see that, a lot of stablecoins are now being used for transactions? And I think they're a great way to transact actually when you're paying someone overseas.
Yeah, I think it's something that should have happened a long time ago, right? So when the internet came about, like payments should have been something that was kind of improved on like right away, right? But it didn't happen for whatever reason. Before cryptocurrency, sending money overseas was next to impossible, right? Remittance, you get charged like 20% to send money, to have remittance, right? Sending money overseas to your family. And that's just crazy, right? You should just be able to send money to anyone in the world. And then cryptocurrency really helped with that. Just sending money, it removed like the borders. And stablecoins is another variation. The issue I have with stablecoin is that it's still based off of fiat currency, right? So it's a good way to pay for things, but it's not a good way to store money because you're just storing money in US dollar, whatever fiat currency it is. But the great thing is that if a store accepts if a store accepts stablecoins and you have Bitcoin and Litecoin, you can easily convert your Bitcoin and Litecoin to USDT or USDC or whatever and then pay, right? You can do that almost instantaneously. So it makes it easy if you're storing your wealth in hard money like Bitcoin and Litecoin. It makes it easy for you to pay for things. So that's great, right? So I think the advancement in support for stable coins is only good for Bitcoin and Litecoin.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to Litecoin, is there anything like after these 14 years of it being in existence. Well, first of all, actually, any community celebrations planned for the 14-year anniversary coming up?
I'm sure people will celebrate it. Myself personally, I'm not really doing anything, but I'm sure there will be some live stream or something that I might just hop on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's huge. 14 years for anything. I mean, for cryptocurrency is like a lifetime. And the crazy thing is that, great thing about Litecoin is it's been up and running for 14 years nonstop, right? So the decentralized network, since I launched it, has not had any hiccups, has not stopped or shut down or restarted or anything like that. It just has been working nonstop, every 2.5 minutes on average, processing blocks, sending payments. And this is something that's really important for money. You don't want you don't want the network to go down and all of a sudden you can't buy things with your money, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'm really proud of, that Litecoin has been up since launch for 14 years.
Is there anything, like looking back, that you would do differently or that you'd want to see different with Litecoin?
That I would do differently. I think one thing looking back is maybe would be better to launch it anonymously, like what Satoshi did with Bitcoin. So I think being out there has its own like issues, mm-hmm. right? So Satoshi was anonymous. He kind of just stepped away. He did this before I even like found out about Bitcoin. He's just stepped away and disappeared. It's funny because before he disappeared, people actually thought he was a real person. Like there was actually a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto, probably Japanese, of Japanese origin, living in, I think people thought he was in like the UK or something. And then after he disappeared, people tried to find him and realized that this person does not actually exist. And his email is a private email address that there's no way to track and find out who he is. So, mm-hmm. which was very interesting, mm-hmm. that he had the foresight of launching Bitcoin, something that's very kind of new, controversial potentially, doing it anonymously and being able to just leave the project without leaving a trace. It's mm-hmm. pretty crazy.
Do you think it was just one person or a group of people?
I go back and forth. I'm thinking it's just one person. Mm-hmm. It's hard to imagine one person being able to launch something this like world changing. But if it was a group of people, I think it would have leaked like who it was. Like having it being only one person would make it much more likely that I can keep it a secret. And I also think that he might really already have passed away. I think, because there's some candidates that's potentially Satoshi, but it's hard to know for sure.
Right.
I would love to know who he is, for one day for the world to find out. I mean, because he did something pretty amazing. Like Bitcoin is really world changing, and it's something that it would be cool to find out who actually created it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it probably keeps some people in the industry up at night. Like they probably think about it and obsess about it. There are definitely some people, and maybe some of the listeners, that actually have that, they're obsessing over who he is.
Yeah, and obviously there's some people who come out to claim they are Satoshi.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, which is why I think it's cool. I think it's really cool when you know who's behind the project. Like Vitalik with Ethereum and you with Litecoin. And because then you have, to talk to a person such as yourself and to get the insight of like, why did you create this crypto? What was the goal? Like, what do you hope to see in the future? I mean, these are huge questions that if every cryptocurrency was anonymous with the creator, I mean, you can never answer those questions.
That's true. But there are trade-offs. Like, having me out there makes the coin more centralized, right? So, like I can kind of steer the coin. I mean, good and bad, right? There are trade-offs. I can steer the coin in the direction that I think is best for the coin. But it's kind of like having a dictator, whether he's benevolent or not, right? He could all of a sudden turn bad or something, right? So having kind of a figurehead is good, in the sense that I can kind of steer Litecoin and kind of make it more efficient. But then on the flip side, like Satoshi, after he left, Bitcoin is more decentralized, right? There's no one person that people look up to. But then there's a problem with that, where you have false prophets, people coming out claiming to be Satoshi, and then people believing that he's Satoshi, and then using Satoshi's vision to kind of try to change the project to something that it's not, right? So there are inefficiencies with people bickering and fighting about the direction of where Bitcoin should head, right? We see a lot of that almost every day. Every time there's a kind of a conflict between what Bitcoin should do, there's a lot of inefficiency, a lot of people arguing, and then a lot of times nothing happens because just people can't agree. But then that doesn't happen with Litecoin today, because I can kind of steer the ship and say this is where we want to go. For example, like adding MWEB to Litecoin is a bit controversial, right? People think privacy is not great. The government might crack down on it. Exchanges might delist it. But something like that would be very hard for Bitcoin to adopt because there's controversy, right? But whereas with Litecoin, I think this is best for Litecoin. I can help kind of push that forward. Yeah.
Right, and that, it also gets me thinking about like Bitcoin and DeFi, and also, taking loans out on your Bitcoin now, and all these things that are also very controversial. Is that something you see in the Litecoin space as well? Like, is there DeFi? I mean, like I said, I don't have Litecoin, so is there DeFi and things that you can do with Litecoin, or take loans out, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there are like Litecoin that is on Ethereum, for example, right? That is wrapped Litecoin on Ethereum or other currencies, where you can do smart contracts on those wrapped Litecoins. So it is possible to do that. It's not, I don't think it's like a big thing. I think for me, my focus is on just the base layer of Litecoin being money, right? Being a coin that can be used to purchase things. For me, the idea that what decentralization brings to cryptocurrency is the ability to transfer value freely without anyone to stop you from doing it. I think that's one of the most powerful things about Bitcoin and Litecoin, and I think one of the reasons why it is valuable is that feature, right? What decentralization gives you. Before I kind of found about Bitcoin, I played poker online, and back then I would transfer a US dollar to a poker site that is offshore, right? Using credit card, wire, or ACH, right? Get the money there and then play poker. And poker is a game of skill, right? So to me, it's not gambling, but what Vegas or other powerful people were able to do is get the government to shut down all the poker sites, online poker sites, and basically ban online poker. And the way they did that was to attack the payment methods. So they basically made it so that US banks and credit cards would not process any transactions from anybody to these poker sites. And by blocking that, it effectively killed online poker. And when that happened, I thought it was kind of crazy. I thought it was, why should the government be able to stop me from playing poker online? Like, I'm not doing anything bad. It's my money. It's not even gambling, right? I want to play a card game, right? Win or lose. Like, I'm an adult, right? Why should I be stopped from doing something that is not illegal? Like, you can do it in Vegas. Why can't I do it online? And I realized, like, it's because the money is not free, right? It's being controlled by the government.
Right.
And then when Bitcoin happened, it was like an aha moment, right? I just saw something that made made money more free for people to use, right? Where nobody can stop you from sending money to anywhere.
Right. All of that, it's so insightful. But there are also concerns. I know we're running low on time, but I want to express my concerns. Quantum computing is a concern, and what's going to happen with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, all of it, right? When quantum computers get smart enough to break these codes, losing keys having your crypto hacked and stolen. I mean, these are things that keep me up at night, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are your thoughts on that? It's such an amazing invention and creation, but there are these threats, and in 5 to 10 years, quantum computing could really destroy everything.
Sure, quantum computing is a threat to all of digital finances, right? So there are quantum safe algorithms that are already existing that are being worked on. So it is possible to upgrade Bitcoin and Litecoin to quantum safe private key infrastructure, so that quantum can't steal coins from your address, right? So I'm not concerned about that. I think when the time comes, we'll just be able to just upgrade to something that works better. The only concern I have is coins that are kind of sitting there. So I think it's more of a concern for Bitcoin than Litecoin. Bitcoin has, like Satoshi has 1 million coins just sitting there that could be stolen by quantum computing, right? So if quantum computing happens, so unless like the community decides to lock those coins, like prevent anyone from stealing them, quantum computing can potentially open those up for theft, and that could hurt the market. That could be very bad, right? And then the decision to lock them up could also be bad, because that's like some group of people deciding that Satoshi shouldn't have those coins, assuming that he doesn't have access to them, right? So there are some issues like that I think is concerning, but it doesn't keep me up at night. Your other question about like losing coins, like wallet stuff, is a concern. I mean, it's kind of like being your own bank sounds cool, but you actually have to protect it yourselves, right? You have to have the know-how. But I think the best part is that you don't have to be your own bank, right? You have the option to. You can store on exchanges. A lot of times, exchanges are able to protect your coins better than you can yourself, right? Like a grandma won't be able to have their own hardware wallet, but if they can trust some third party to help them secure it, or buying an ETF or stuff like that. So there are options, and I think that's the best part, is that it's not one size fit all.
I agree, and I think it's good to have these options and to actually exercise both options.
Yeah.
You know, being in charge of your own bank, and then also allocating that to an exchange that you trust. So,
and there are also other solutions like multi-sig solutions where company like Casa, for example, has a solution where it's like 5 keys, 5 hardware wallets, different types of hardware wallets, stored in different places, one at home, one at your office, one in a bank, one on your phone. So you need like 3 or 5 to access your coins. So it's really hard to lose 3 of these devices. And then things like that really help protect the coins, and also help protect someone from stealing your coins.
Right. That, and also
so there are a lot of solutions.
Yeah, and even natural disasters, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like an earthquake or a tornado or a fire. I mean, then,
Yep.
there's so many things that can happen, which I think, when I'm talking to someone that doesn't own crypto, and they're always interested, people that don't own it, they're like, oh, I should own Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum, but I don't know how. And I think that's like, these concerns are why. They don't know how, but now it's easier, right? You just go to Coinbase and buy or whatever. But then it's like, how do you store them? How do you keep it safe? I mean, I think that's really what the crypto industry needs to be focused a lot on in order to help with this adoption with mainstream.
Yeah, but that's also where something like an ETF helps a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So someone who has no experience, no technical background whatsoever, they want to own some Litecoin, for example, and assuming the ETF is out there, you can tell them to go buy the ETF first, right? Buy some ETF, get some exposure, and learn more about Litecoin. Once they're more familiar with it, open like a Coinbase account, buy some Litecoin on there, and then keep it on there, right? For now.
Right. Yeah.
In the meantime, and learn more about how to keep your own coins, and then buy a hardware wallet, pull the Litecoins from Coinbase, put in your hardware wallet, play around with that, and there's a lot of. It's not simple, but there's kind of baby steps you can take to go from a crypto novice to an expert.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, we're running low on time, so I have one fun question and then final thoughts from you.
Sure.
The fun question is, if you could collaborate with one person on a new crypto project, whether that person is dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Satoshi Nakamoto, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to work with him, pick his brains on stuff, right? And just like I'd love to work with Satoshi Nakamoto, even like anonymously, right? Even if he stays anonymous, I don't have to meet him in person, just being able to chat with him. I feel kind of sad that I missed the chance to chat with him, because before he left in like 2010, he was actually chatting with people online and talking to you, like explaining his decisions on stuff, and just like a normal developer. People didn't suspect anything, right? So kind of being able to chat with him would be something that would be on my bucket list, but that probably would never happen.
Well, never say never. Okay, great. Any final thoughts before we end the interview? I mean, I could talk to you for hours, but I know you're on a schedule. So anything you want our listeners to know? I like people to kind of, a lot of people are in this space, they've never actually, they might have heard of Litecoin, but they've never actually used it. So I would recommend for people to check it out, like download Litecoin wallet, a mobile wallet, buy some Litecoins, transfer it, and see what it's all about, right? And actually compare it to Bitcoin and other coins, and kind of experiment with it. I would recommend people do that. Yeah, well, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Charlie, thank you. This has been a real pleasure, and you are fascinating, and I'm just so happy that you joined today.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Rachel.
you. Thanks.
Special thanks to 4Labs Digital for producing Web3 Deep Dive podcast. I'd also like to thank the sponsors behind Web3 Deep Dive. You can click the links in the show notes to learn more about each of the Web3 initiatives from these sponsors. Finally, thanks to the listeners for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and share.